The list of tools I'm about to describe is not exhaustive, meaning it doesn't even begin to come close to the total number of tools that one could glean from the discussion about nutrition and supplementation that I had with Dr. Andy Galpin on this podcast. But they are the major ones that are definitely worth knowing. And those include supplementing with omega-3 fatty acids. Now, omega-3 fatty acids are found, of course, in foods, things like fatty fish and krill, of all things, certain forms of algae, etc. But most people do not get enough of so-called EPA form of omega-3s. And for that reason, I and many other people choose to supplement with a minimum of 1 gram per day, and in some cases as high as 2 grams per day of omega-3s in supplement form. So typically one would get to 1 to 2 grams of EPA by supplementing their nutrition, their diet that is, with fish oil capsules or liquid fish oil. Getting sufficient amounts of omega-3 has been shown to be important for mood, so as a way to offset depression, but also for enhancing overall mood. The omega-3s have been implicated in reducing the inflammation response, cardiovascular health, etc. I realize that there is some debate about omega-3s, but when I look at the bulk of literature about the omega-3s, it's very clear to me that getting 1 to 2 grams of EPA form of omega-3 per day is the right thing for me to do. And many others find that as well. The second tool to enhance your fitness under this category of nutrition and supplementation is creatine. Now, again, creatine is not just found in supplement form. It's also found, of course, in foods, in particular red meat. However, the amount of red meat that one would have to eat in order to get the amount of creatine that one would start to see a real performance enhancing effect is just far too high. You'd be ingesting far too much of other things in red meat that you wouldn't want that much of. And for that reason, I and many other people will take creatine daily. We now know there's no need to so-called load creatine in the old days, as it were. So old days, by the way, meaning mid-90s and 2000s, we were all told that we had to load creatine. We had to take high-dose creatine for 4 or 5 days, and then you could back off to a maintenance dose. Now it's very clear you can just take a daily dose of creatine, and that it really doesn't matter when you take that creatine. You could take it post-workout, as many people do. You could take it pre-workout. It really doesn't seem to matter. I happen to take it post-workout just as a matter of habit. But again, you could take it any time of day. Rhodiola rosea is a supplement that's gaining increasing attention because it is what's called a cortisol modulator. It does not necessarily suppress cortisol. It does not increase cortisol. It's a cortisol modulator. And frankly, the mechanism by which rhodiola rosea modulates cortisol is still under investigation. I hope to do an episode about it in the future, or at least make it part of an episode, because the hypothesized mechanism that's starting to emerge is really interesting as it relates to neurons in the brain that control the stress response and glands in the body like the adrenals that control the stress response and that secrete cortisol. Regardless, there's a growing body of research that has explored rhodiola rosea supplementation and one's subjective perception of fatigue or output during high-intensity training of various kinds, both resistance training as well as running and endurance type training.